So my overall thoughts before we get into too much of a deep dive is I thought this movie was above average. And I'm shocked at the reviews it's gotten. Not just this, but Thunderbolts and also Superman. These are all three above average movies to me. You can put them in any order you want, but I don't think any of these movies are great. So I'm surprised that fans like them so much and critics like them so much. But I think the box office is showing that these are pretty average movies. I know money-wise, Captain America flopped, which sucked. And then Thunderbolts flopped, which was okay. And then this and Superman are making about the same amount of money. And I think that's kind of right in line with what I thought, that they're kind of both decent movies that have obvious flaws that we can get into later.
Hmm.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there that
Yeah.
when I walked out of the theater, my general feeling was of being a little underwhelmed. I expected to like it a lot more, having heard the buzz, having seen a few reviews, and I thought it was okay. It was okay, but I just kind of felt a little bit cold. It just wasn't that exciting to me. It was underwhelming.
So right after the movie ended, I get up and I say, I'm reviewing the movie. What did you all think?
Then the popcorn flew at you.
Like, what, Doc? No, actually, a young man said, I really enjoyed it. I loved this movie. And it did seem that the audience really liked it. They sat through to the very end of the movie. And what I mean by that is through the credits playing. So the credits were very long, and there were a lot of people that were involved in the making of this film, which is incredible. Um, but one of the things I found interesting were that people were still there. I've usually seen people leave in the middle of the credits or in the credits start beginning. So I really enjoyed that people stayed to the end of the credits.
Yeah, that's cool. And now, what about the final critic? What did you think?
I've been to different superhero movies all the time. I always get hyped to see it. I was very disappointed. Just nothing. The costumes didn't pop. It just felt like it was very tacky and thrown together. I understand it's the 60s. I understand they're trying to do something different, but there's a difference between 60s and just tacky and cinema and nothing was working together. It was just like maybe a comic fan. Yeah, I feel like they were going for the comic, but they overly cheesed the comic when they could have costumes could have popped more, the characters could have flowed more. Less cheesy comic characters. Yes, it could work in a cartoon, but live action, you have to realize you don't want that. Maybe years ago, like Batman and Robin, but not elongated. You don't want that.
See, I
Okay.
respectfully disagree. I really loved the coloring in this movie. I really loved the special effects. I really loved the brightness, especially in the beginning where they show the apartment. I just loved that baying with the color. And throughout the movie, I just really enjoyed the special effects. I thought that that's what really made the movie stand out. And Superman as well. I think Hollywood is having a fun time playing with AI.
Definitely. And I
I
guess we'll
didn't
get
think we'd mention AI at this point, but um, you mean AI is artificial intelligence, or are you talking about special the CGI?
Well, it looked like AI to me, but I just think the whatever they did just really looked fantastic, except in the ending. I think, there was the action scene that was too long. But I just really liked the special effects. I thought it really made the movie.
Okay,
okay.
go ahead,
Well,
Angus. I'm sorry.
yeah. So that we'll get into more detail on stuff like the production design later. But in terms of our first impressions and first thoughts, does anybody have any more to say, or should we move on to the next
No, I
section?
think we all said it was pretty much above average. I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
Uh, I do. So one of the things that I felt in coming into the movie is I thought that this was really a movie made for people that were either familiar with the Fantastic Four or were fans. I think that if there was someone sitting there that just didn't know the story or the characters, that they would be confused. And the first scene of the movie is character development um, between, uh, Reed and between Susan Storm. And while I liked that scene between them, I wish it was placed a little bit later and that they actually started with more of an introduction on who the characters were.
Yeah, I suppose in a way it was a bit like Superman that they kind of dropped us in after the fact. We didn't get a really big origin story in this film. But anyway, I think
I'm the
we've.
opposite. I actually liked that it started with them and then you would get to know the different characters. I liked that it was more intimate and you get to see like those two people versus just all these different people. It's actually a woman and a man, and you see that they're real people, not just like at the office, but they're actually at home and they had a relationship.
Oh, I think the scene was great. I just wish it was placed a little bit later. And I felt like the beginning of the movie was messy. The action scene was messy. And then there's a part where she goes from discovering she's pregnant and they're talking about the pregnancy to then being ready to give birth.
Yeah, that
And
was
yeah, I think they could have done that transition better.
yes.
Okay, number two. Is the curse broken? What the Fantastic Four movie does right that the others get wrong?
I would like to go first again.
Go
I'm,
for it.
I'm, I'm playing teacher's pet today. I'm sucking up to both of you guys. So, I think the curse is broken. I think the other three Fantastic Four movies, the Trank movie, Fan Four Stick, the two Sony movies, and then the 90s movies that we did a review for on this channel, they all suck. And it's just a matter of if they're just bad or if they're good bad. But they're all terrible. And they all play it too much for laughs. And while this movie isn't like super serious, you don't have a lot of the Marvel quips. Like there's not like a scene and then it's undercut by like a quippy joke. You know, like there is some humor. It's not like super serious all the time, but that Marvel humor is like not there that much, which I'm very thankful for. I think this is the true depiction of these characters. They didn't nail them perfectly, but they're closer to the comics than the other versions were. And I know not everyone is on board with how the movie started, but I do think, in contrast to Superman, where both of these movies started after these characters were established and we didn't see like a long backstory, where Superman gave you a text scroll you had to read and then boom, you're kind of in the movie. At least they framed this in a way where it's like, all right, 4 years later, and here's a montage of what they've done in the last 4 years. So at least you see some action and some backstory in the montage, rather than with Superman where you just have to read it and then just boom, the movie starts.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I actually liked the way this started, and it was better than Superman. It wasn't confusing. And the device that they used of having the TV show kind of giving the retrospective on the first 4 years of the Fantastic Four. I mean, you could criticize it. You could say it's just an excuse to dump a lot of information on us. But I thought it was a cute idea, and I thought it was well done, and it was entertaining, and it worked for me. I think it might have overstayed its welcome a bit when it came back later. They were doing more of those TV reports, and I thought, I don't know. I liked it at the beginning, but I liked the way it started. And I do have to disagree with you, though. I love the Roger Corman version of the Fantastic Four. I love it. I think it's charming. I think it's delightful, and I think it captures the spirit of comic books. Whether it's completely accurate to the Fantastic Four, I don't know, but it really, to me, it's a wonderful little movie. Yes, it's low budget, it's got limitations, but it's fun. And even the 2005 version, I thought, had a good sense of humor, probably completely inappropriate compared to the comics, but I think it did make me laugh. I think they did a good job of making me laugh. Whereas this film, I felt it was more serious. It took itself almost too seriously. There were moments where they were going for humor, but unfortunately, I felt a lot of them didn't land. A lot of the jokes didn't really work here. And I could have done with a little more humor that worked in this film. But, I'm sure it is the most accurate version. And the fact that it's certainly, if I can use the word realistic when talking about a movie like this, I think it's the most realistic version in terms of personal relationships and how characters interact with each other. It feels a little more real. So I think they did get that right. But still, I love that Corman film. So I just have to say that.
It's your Death Wish 3 of superhero movies, isn't it?
It might be. It might be.
So I only watched the 2005 version of the Fantastic Four, and I saw it around the time it was released. So that's 20 years ago.
Jeez, it's that
that
old?
yeah, that I'm trying to remember what that movie was because I haven't seen it since that time. And actually, when I was watching this Fantastic Four, I started to remember that 2005 version. And what I remember that they did in that version is that they focused more on the Thing's transition. And I liked that part of it. And I feel like this movie just touched upon that. And I wish they had done more with talking more about the rocks, I'm sorry, the Thing's transition in transforming into this rock-like monstrous figure. So I did like that about the film, and I remember that Reed was more the leader, and I feel like that was similar in this as well, but I do believe that this movie focused more on the aspect of that while Reed is the leader, it's really a group effort. And I did like that focus and focus on family. But I did like also the comedic elements in this particular Fantastic Four. I liked the comedic banter with the characters.
Okay.
Angus, I think you're gonna have to hold on to your seat because just like how we had Superdog and Crypto in the last review, I think we're gonna have The Rock in the Thing with Lux in this review.
Yes.
I meant the Thing, but I'm always thinking the Rock because that's what he looks like. So it's word association there.
Yeah, just like Superdog.
Yes.
I will
Um,
say this though. You said you were having a hard time remembering the 2005 Fantastic Four. It's
mhm.
Three's Company with superpowers, essentially.
It's a lot more comedic for sure. There's a lot more laughs.
A lot of
And
sitcom type humor in it.
yeah, but
Misunderstandings and stuff like that.
I feel that they do land a little more than this, but Lux, you felt that the humor was working for you in this one?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
liked that banter, especially regarding the cooking, and I just thought that it gave that sense of family camaraderie.
Cereal for dinner? Wacky! I can't believe they thought that joke was so good they did it twice.
Yeah. Well, I guess I just took that more as the kind of the realistic banter between people as opposed to jokes that are landing. But yeah, I like those moments too, those kind of real moments between people. Definitely.
Yeah. Um, One thing I do want to mention that I liked about the film, and I do think the sound was off when I was watching it at certain points. So for me, there were times when I whispered to the person next to me, "Did you catch that line? What did that say? Like, what was going on there?" So I swear that the robot, I heard that the name was Ruby, but when I looked up afterwards, it actually said Herbie. So I really like the robot element in this story reminded me of the Jetsons. And so I think it really connected with that retro style that I enjoyed in the film. Um, and in one point in my notes, I put, I hope this robot, or I hope Herbie saves the day. So I really liked the Herbie little robot there.
Yeah, I like the robot too, and interesting that they had robots in the Superman movie too. There's some interesting parallels here
Mhm.
between the two movies.
Well, I think this is more of a parallel to Superdog, as Lux would say, in that it's just a tie-in for the little kids and for the toys and stuff like that. Okay.
I like the robot. I remember very little about the Fantastic Four. I remember the Thing. I just remember like I think they did a better job, honestly, back then describing him. But and everything was serious in this one. I don't remember too much. I do remember the jokes were more fluid in that one. I liked with the robot they made him like more human, that they made him actually kind of be like a helper, not just like a robot, like actually more human-like and interactive and caring.
And he
Yeah, I
was
agree.
setting up the place for the baby and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, again, this goes back to this movie not really being an origin story, so we're not getting that really detailed view of how these characters transformed and what they went through psychologically because of that. We just get a very quick recap on that TV show, kind of showing us the highlights. So that makes it different from all the previous versions because they were pretty much all origin stories, all the previous Fantastic Four movies. So interesting choice to not do it here.
This particular Fantastic Four felt more like a sequel. It didn't feel like first steps, it felt like second steps.
Yeah, I thought it was an ironic title to call it First Steps, and then they're
Yeah.
flashing back to all this stuff that happened in the past. So it really wasn't the first steps, but
Mhm.
Well, I
yeah,
think that's meant for the baby, right? The baby's first steps.
yeah, well, that could be. Yeah, the double entendre, I
Yeah.
suppose, the baby. But it's interesting. It does almost feel like a sequel in the sense of, hey, remember these things that happened? Let's recap the first 4 years here. So yeah, kind of like Superman again. So there's something in the air, I guess.
I think it would have been better to include some story. So it was great for fans, which is fine. There's no backstory, but if you want to get more audience, more money, and more people, I don't mean that would want more money, but you would want to include some backstory, kind of do the beginning, but then add like a little story to each, not just like plop us in there, but a little bit for each character. So then people can come in and it's not just one character. They can do more merchandise and have it more family oriented and different things. Because if you just throw it in there, it's not just about the story, it's about bringing people and they could have had a larger ticket sale if they did more character development. Not a ton, I don't think, in the middle, but just a little story with each person.
Lily, I'm really glad you brought that up. I think that that's an excellent point. I do also think that they needed to do more character development, and I think this movie was missing that.
Yes, I agree. And we can probably talk more about that in the next section here, which is actually casting Marvel's first family. And I believe, Sean, you may have something to say about this.
Yes, I do. I do. I do. So, yeah, I just want to break down the Fantastic Four if I can. So, Pedro Pascal. The best thing about this movie by far, as quirky and as weird as he is, and he had a lot of weird behavior, and there was a weird, also, I keep using the word weird. I should be using the word fantastic all the time instead of weird. But he had a lot of weird behavior leading up to this movie. And he's been an actor for a long time, but this whole social anxiety thing seems like it's something new. Maybe it's always been there and it's now being spotlighted. But he was constantly touching his co-hosts, his co-hosts. I'm not touching my co-hosts. I meant to say his
Of course,
co-stars. Yeah, he kept touching them all the time. And there was like all these montages of him doing this creepy behavior. And I think part of it was like his politics and also his stance on transgender because he has a transgender brother slash sister, however you want to label that. And I think that those politics led to this character assassination that was going on around him. But whatever you feel about that, he's a really, really good actor. And he's been great in everything I've seen him in since I first saw him in Game of Thrones, everything except Wonder Woman 1984, of course. But I thought he was the best part of the movie, his portrayal of Reed Richards. But the characterization, like his performance was good as an actor, but the characterization I thought was awful. Um, he was very cautious and meticulous about everything, which is consistent with the character and consistent with him being the reason they have the powers, his guilt over that, his guilt about putting them in danger. So they set that up that he did this horrible thing, he feels guilty about it, he turned them into these things, and because of that, he's being so super cautious. And even with his kid, like he's trying to childproof the entire city. And he even says, like, I have like all these criminals and I have this plan to like make sure they're all arrested before the baby's born. All these things going on. And with all this cautiousness and all this planning, and he already took them to space once and gave them these powers. With all of that, he takes his pregnant wife, who's just about to give birth, into outer space. Pregnant women aren't even supposed to go on airplanes. He's taking them on, he's taking them to outer space to fight this world-eating giant. It just doesn't make sense. It's not consistent with this character.
Yeah.
And he's all supposed to be this genius and a leader. And what kind of genius and a great leader is going to come back to Earth and say, "Oh yeah, we failed. He gonna kill all y'all. Y'all dead. Y'all gone." Is there any way to stop him? Yeah, there's one way to stop him. We got to give him our kid, but we're not going to do that. You guys are screwed. And like, why would you present it that way? Why would you
Yeah.
present it in like a more like a better way? Like, of course they're going to turn on him. So I thought him as an actor was good, but I thought the character was just like really screwed up with the script.
Mhm.
Um, as far as Johnny Storm, now, Joseph Quinn was another one who said a lot of stuff on his press tour, and he made it seem like he didn't like the character's portrayal with as being a womanizer, which is the core of the character, but he thought it was problematic and he wanted that removed. The issue with that is that his womanizing ways kind of masks his insecurities and it's kind of a core of his character. So when they put him on this arc where he's this insecure character, we don't see why he's insecure. They didn't make up for that in any other way aside from him just saying, oh, like, acting like he's insecure. But nothing in his actions is consistent with that. He's a brilliant scientist, he's a pilot, he handles the weapons on the ship. He's the first to go out in battle. He's one of the best with the powers and fighting and all that stuff. You heard of Mary Sue, he's like a Gary Stu. He's just perfect. He has no flaws. So this arc of him trying to go on this redemption and prove himself doesn't make any sense. He learns a whole new alien language on his own with just like one or two lines. You can give me like one or two lines. You can give me like a whole dictionary of Spanish words and give me like 30 years and I still won't know Spanish. And he has like one or two lines from Silver Surfer's language and he's able to like learn her entire language based on that, which I thought was ridiculous. So yeah, I had issues with that character as well. But I think the actor played the part well. I just thought the script failed him. Again, both of those performances I thought were great. And just overall, I just thought there was a lack of chemistry in the group and a lack of drama. Everyone was great at everything, and
Yeah.
there was no tension between them. And that, I mean, I understand it's supposed to be family, but hello, families hate each other a lot. They just like constantly argue and bicker and fight. And in the comics, they had that. Like the Thing hated being a rock person. Is that we're calling him the Rock or are we calling him the Thing? I want to
The
double check.
thing, the thing,
The thing. He
the
hated
thing.
his rock form, and even you said you barely remember the 2005 version, but you remember that. Like
Mhm.
he hated that. Like he doesn't even bring that up. That's a huge source of tension between him and Reed because Reed turned him into this rock monster. I mean, the Thing, and he hates that. But we don't have that tension. Also, there's a lot of tension with him and Johnny Storm. And again, the actor didn't want to play him as a womanizer, but in the comics, not only did Johnny mess with the Thing constantly, but he married the Thing's girlfriend when the Thing was on another planet. So that was a whole form. None of that tension's there. And also Sue, she has a lot of guilt and also a lot of um tension with Reed because Reed is always, oh, I got to invent this, I got to do this for the planet, I got to do this for the team. In the meantime, he's a neglectful husband and a neglectful father because he's too much into the science, and she wants him to balance that more. None of that, none of that stuff that I mentioned is actually in the movie. So that's my issues with the characterization. I thought the actors were great, but the script failed them, and even though their performances were good, I still had issues with all of them.
Yeah, I think you're really kind of reflecting my feelings too, that they're all good actors, but I felt the characters were underdeveloped, understated. The
Mhm.
script was not strong enough. We weren't getting enough development. Does anybody have more specific thoughts on that?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
I do. Okay. Oh, I do want to piggyback off of something Sean said regarding Pedro Pascal. And one of the things I really like about Pedro Pascal is how he has stood up for his sister. And interestingly enough, because my name in doing this commentary is Lux, his sister's name is Lux. Um, so I was doing some reading previously about him standing up for his sister because there was bullying online regarding her being transgendered. And I just really respect that he did that. His sister is a model and is successful in her own right. But with regards to the movie, I too felt like there should be more character development, and I saw some inconsistencies. So, one of the things I saw regarding Reed was that in the beginning he was anxious. Is the kid normal? How's the pregnancy going? And then when he gets back from space, he announces to the public, a group of strangers, that there's this deal ultimatum that Galactus has made the baby, but your planet Earth in this particular reality will be saved, but you have to give us your baby. And he announces this to people he doesn't even know. And so it was just really inconsistent for me, that particular choice. And I think that there were other things that they could have done, like they could have had the Thing and Johnny speak privately, like maybe in an alley, and someone overhears them, and then the public hears about this Galacticus ultimatum and deal, if they wanted to keep that in, or they could have taken it out because they already had that conflict. The deal that Galactus is trying to make is the conflict. So they didn't really need that additional conflict with the public. I felt it just made it too messy. And another thing I saw regarding inconsistency was regarding Sue Storm. And you're about to pop out a baby and you make a decision to go up into space. Like, if I'm about to pop a baby out, I'm staying home. I'm like, yo, y'all go. I'll be here with you, being emotionally supportive. I think they could have worked that out in a way. I mean, here they are having these cosmic superpowers, and I think that they could have worked around it where when they met with Galactus.
Son of a bitch! You done messed up!
Could have been like, with my cosmic power, I sense that, this baby that Sue Storm is having back on Earth is amazing and should take over, my role. And that was another thing. Like, why didn't we have a backstory for Galactus?
It took you 4 seconds to piss me off again.
We really needed that because he's a really interesting villain. He is not trying to be villainous. He has to do it in order to survive. And I feel like we really missed that, especially in the part where he's like, this baby is going to take over my role. Well, why does he want to retire? So I think they could have done more with the character development regarding all of those things. But I really liked the casting. The other thing I do want to mention regarding Johnny is that my understanding is that his superpower, the Human Torch, is really symbolic for his anger as a human being. And it seemed like the movie, the director, the actor, maybe the director and the actor, I'm not really sure whose choice this was, but there was a choice that was made for Johnny not to be angry, to be more even-keeled, more affable, more just like not angry. So I just thought that was an interesting choice. I think as far as the theme goes, I think it worked. I think it worked regarding the plot, but I just thought it was an interesting choice that was made. But I liked the acting. I thought the actors did a great job in their portrayals of the characters. I just wish there was more character development, especially with the Thing.
Yeah, I
So
think we all.
if I can just jump in with some comic book insight.
Sure. Yeah.
So first of all, you never disappoint, Lux. Galacticus, brilliant.
Galactus.
That completely makes up for Rockman or Rock Person or The Rock. It's Galactus. But I like Galacticus though. Galacticus, we're gonna go with that. So
I'm sorry.
No, it's your thing. It's your thing. You got to keep it going. So just a couple comic book things real quick. So in the comics, Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, she actually did leave the team when she was pregnant. And they had different other people take her place temporarily as part of the team. Like Johnny Storm had a lot of girlfriends, and some of them had superpowers. I think 2 different occasions, like his girlfriends joined the team to take her place while she was pregnant. So yes, even in the comics, they thought it was ridiculous for a pregnant woman to be running around.
Girlfriend, I think that's a whole different. Yeah, I also thought like for the character development with the father, instead of making him caring, it just made him look like a complete asshole. To be caring, you need to do like not just controlling, but show like he's there for his wife and he's protective. If not, I've been taking care of kids. It's just an asshole father you don't want to deal with. And it doesn't even make him look relatable. It makes you not want to deal with him, actually. And also with the first thing when she's giving birth, I'm like, is this gymnastics? I'm like, this isn't even like, it was so over the top. And like, it was like, what are they, you were completely like, this just looks like a horrible gymnastics show. Like they didn't, it shouldn't have even been there. It looked out of place. Like I was kind of scratching my head. And with the Thing, I do remember him because when I took care of kids, I remember that's how they related because he was different and they like, that's how they're like, they could relate to his like difficulties, and that was left out. So people could relate to his character and how they wanted to change and develop, like they could relate to somebody that was different and struggling. And that relatability was out of it, so they couldn't bring in the younger kids as well as the other generation so they could relate to the struggles.
And one last thing before you take your turn, Angus. Just to finish up on the comic book notes, yes, their powers are related to their character flaws. And the one incarnation that actually got it closest to correct in the comics, and Angus is gonna be thrilled with this, is the Roger Corman version, the one that cost about 50 cents to shoot in the 90s. in that Johnny Storm has a fiery personality.
Mhm.
That's why he got the fire powers. Sue felt like she was never noticed and didn't get an attention. That's why she's invisible. Reed Richards, he's always trying to do everything and he's stretching himself too thin. And then Ben he was solid. He was always dependable. He was, come on, what you call him? The Rock.
Rockman, aka the Thing.
And Galacticus
Galactus.
is another story.
You were confused. You're like, what is going on? Is it a villain? Who is it? Do they want the baby? It's like, you're completely confused. And I'm like, first of all, why they want to, like, it doesn't even look like the person is old, but it's confusing. I didn't know if that was a good person or a villain because I was new to watching it. I was like, okay, are they just going to give the baby? Is it a villain? You couldn't.
And what's he going to do with the baby in space?
Yeah.
Like, how's he going to take care of it in space?
It's a cosmic baby, you know.
Well, I mean, it's born from a woman, so I don't know.
A little space.
Maybe it would have like a 2001 type thing where it's like a giant space baby at the end. I don't know. But yeah, Angus, I'm sorry. I cut you off initially. You haven't.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think we're all on the same page here. I think we all agree. Good actors, underdeveloped characters, strange choices. The script is to blame. You can't really fault the actors for it. So I think we've covered that pretty well.
Before we move on, none of us
yes.
touched on the Silver Surfer, so I just want to touch on that one real quick.
All right.
Much like Galactus,
Galactus.
it's a villain that didn't really get enough screen time. Galacticus is one of the biggest, most powerful superhero villains in Marvel history. And if all we're going to get from him is like a couple of scenes and a couple of dialogue scenes, it seems like a real waste. With the Silver Surfer plays into the end and makes this huge sacrifice, but it feels so unearned because there was no journey with that character. It's just the character's there for a couple of scenes and then they come in and they make the sacrifice at the end. It's like, yeah, that could be like a really powerful moment if we spent any real time with your character. And the idea of that character being a single mother and relating to Sue with the kid and stuff, that was all part of reshoots and it felt kind of forced, where it's like, okay, so at the last part of the movie, you're giving us this backstory just to justify like why she's turning good now. It just seemed kind of forced. And again, she was a little underdeveloped to earn that sacrificial ending that's supposed to be a powerful moment. It could have felt powerful if it was Johnny Storm, if he actually did it. But since it was Silver Surfer, it just really didn't feel earned.
I also don't think Sue's emotions were consistent as a woman. Like, she went from being like excited to like she wasn't even frustrated. She was just
It's
like,
the hormones because she's pregnant.
yeah, but still, that was more like postpartum and not just mad at him. Like, she would have been more caring towards the baby and not just like a distant. They didn't even really show her holding it so much when she was saying that, and it was not the right emotion.
Wasn't she holding the baby when she came back from space?
Yeah.
Just from what I remember. I really liked the Silver Surfer. I liked what they did with the Silver Surfer. I liked the backstory. When she's being confronted with all the planets that have been destroyed and the screaming, and she goes like that, and she's just overwhelmed by the misery of it all. I think that that's when you see a change in her character. And I can see where that buildup happens with being confronted with that pain and then coming to help save the day. I thought the look of the Silver Surfer, I really liked the silver sheen. I really liked Julia Gardner's interpretation. I liked her acting. I actually thought her and Johnny really, their interactions really, I think, made the movie better, in my opinion. I really liked those interactions and him flirting, and her being standoffish, but also being receptive to him as well. And the part where, she's giving him advice in her language that he eventually looks up and finds out in regarding like being with your loved ones during destruction. And I think that really made a difference in the character, and really showed more about her own story and her own connections with her planet and her daughter, and sacrificing in order to save her child and her planet.
Wasn't she originally a male Silver Surfer?
Yeah, they changed it. I think it was so that they could have that love story angle. Because if they didn't, what would Johnny Storm be doing in the whole movie, you know?
I also think it played into the theme of self-sacrifice and
Well, he
the
could have
connection.
sacrificed and been a man.
Well, oh yes, absolutely.
She's saying specifically why it was a woman. I think that was the reason why, so that they could have the love story.
But that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking like Sue needed to be more motherly, because if there's two females, they didn't show it. Like they should have showed more caring towards her, the child. There was none. It's like, oh, she picks it up, but she wouldn't have. If she was upset, he was not frustrated in that scene. She would have still been holding the child instead of ignoring it. It looks like literally postpartum, which and then with the Silver Surfer, it's a female. You need to show the two feminine versus more masculine female, and it just would mush them together. So the two strong characters would need differentiate different personalities to show the two dynamics of females, which is why it kind of threw everything off. Which they really didn't make her look motherly; they just made her look whatever. But if you wanted to go, you could do that angle. But you want two females, one would have to be more motherly and caring and show the emotions, caring, taking care of the child and frustrated, not just away from the child, and the other would also be more masculine, like she wants a sacrifice, but she'd be more on the field and more into action. You would see more action versus emotions to show the different dynamic with different femininity, but it just kind of combines, but you really need to show the two different.
Well, I think that I don't think showing affection or caring is a feminine or masculine trait. I've seen men be very affectionate towards children. I've seen women be affectionate towards children.
But
I
that's a
do.
feminine trait. That's a motherly trait. That's the feminine energy of it, a person.
Well, that we've been socialized. Not everyone is meant to be a mother. Not everyone should be a mother. Not everyone should be a father. But I do think the plot aspect of her sacrificing herself for her baby and for the world really showed that care, and that maternal aspect.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, a lot of great points there. But I think we need to move on to the next section, which is the look and feel. And Lux, you're in charge of this one. Take it away.
Is the Fantastic Four's retro aesthetic, is it a genius move, or is it just a weird gimmick?
I have to say that this is the one thing about the movie that I really liked. I really liked the retro feel. I really liked the 1960s and also the vision of the future as seen through the 1960s. I love that kind of thing. I think somebody mentioned the Jetsons earlier, and that's exactly the kind of aesthetic. This is what they would have thought in 1961 was the future. And of course, the comic book debuted in 1961, so I think it's kind of an homage to that, or perhaps a way of being true to that. But I just think it looks great, and I love that. And, regardless of the story and the characters, I could have just enjoyed looking at the production design, the mid-century modern furniture, the costumes. I loved all that. So I know some people probably disagree. So I'll
I have
throw
some
it.
negative things to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just talking overall with this, not specifically like costumes and things like that. So first I want to start with the CGI. Now, like a lot of modern movies, CGI is amazing. I mean, if as a kid I thought movies could look like this, I'd say you're crazy. But there is a problem with the CGI, not just with this movie, with superhero movies in general. While it looks amazing, it doesn't feel real in the sense
Yeah.
that when it's a CGI scene, the actors, they don't react to things that you normally would if it's a real scene. Temperature, sound, speed, debris, none of those things play a factor when a scene is 100% CGI. The actors just stand around and none of the elements affect them as the elements would affect you if it was a real scene. And when you notice that, you can't unnotice that. Specific example would be when they come flying in with the car in Times Square, when Silver Surfer has that speech and comes down to Earth, the Thing and a pregnant Sue Storm just walk out the car. So the car comes flying in, zooming down, and they immediately just walk out. Now, even if this is some kind of magic car, you'd have some kind of recoil when a car stops. They just step on out. It's so clear that they're just sitting down and then they're just standing up, and then everything else is CGI'd around them. There's no reaction to coming out of a speeding car. That's just one of like many examples in the movie. Also, the scope of the film feels very small. Everything's about the world and the earth. I'm going to eat the earth. These are the only superheroes on the planet. It's all the earth and the world and the planet. But yet everything feels so small. Everything still feels like they're in one city. Everything still feels like this is New York. It never feels like there's a bigger scope than they're just in New York. We don't see other world leaders. Like in Superman, at least we had like, a stand-in for the UN or something and other world leaders discussing things and other people with power. It's just a Fantastic Four. Something happens. We don't go to the president. We don't go to the other world leaders. We just go to this family that have to eat dinner at 7 o'clock and they're so quirky. They eat cereal for dinner and they solve all the world's problems. And anytime there's a problem with the world, we just go to New York City and we go to the Fantastic Four. And specifically, Times Square is the center of like everything going on the planet. Well, I like New York, and Times Square isn't bad. It's a little bit of a tourist trap. I don't think we're the center of the universe. Maybe we are. I don't know. The last thing I'd say on this category is the sound issue, the sound design. So this again is not just an issue specifically with this movie. It's an issue with movies in general that I've always had an issue with. If I want to talk to someone, all I have to do is this. Talk in a close-up. And then you could be at the other side of the planet and I just have to talk at a whisper. And then you see a wide shot and they're talking at this volume. You're like, how can they hear you from all the way over there if you're talking at this volume? The Thing had a scene like that where he's talking to the little kids. And it seems like the kids are just right next to him when they want him to pick up the car. But on a wide shot, they're all the way across the street behind a fence in their schoolyard. And he's all the way on the other side of the street, but none of them are yelling. And then when Sue Storm has that soapbox moment where she goes and like virtue signals to everyone about family, she's talking at a normal volume with no microphone or anything in front of her. And there are just like mounds of people, all can hear her perfectly clearly. And, they even give her the slow clap at the end of her speech. How can they possibly hear her? So that sound design issue, again, it's not just an issue with this film, but it's just one of those things that bother me with movies in general. So I'm done.
Does the final critic have thoughts about the production design?
So I really
You're not the final
liked.
critic.
Oh, sorry.
She's fine, too.
She is. Sorry, Lily. Sorry about that. We
Um,
can cut that.
No, I'm leaving it in.
Oh, you're leaving it in? Oh no.
I'm leaving all this in too.
I think it's great that it's 60s, but I just feel it's too corny and tacky. I didn't like it that 60s. I felt like I was opening a lunchbox. Um, and it was just, I felt like it was not the 60s, maybe because I was used to like Jim Henson in the 60s. That's what I was kind of like. It just felt too cheesy for me. And for me, I think sound is important, but they need to combine all the elements together and not just like, I guess it's weird at the volume that she's at, but at the same time, maybe if she was at a speaker, but I think it depends maybe because if she's caught in the moment, it's not so weird because she's just trying to make a point. But maybe a volume difference would have been better, but not complete change. But the CG, yeah, stuff is not fluid. It just looks like you can tell there's a CGI person. There's no emotion and just like it doesn't flow and you want to look away, you don't want to look at it because they've done progress with CGI, but it just looks like it's not real and it's just not flowing as it should.
Okay, so maybe I'm the only one who thinks this movie could be a visual work of art. Is that correct?
No, I actually
I don't think I said
I
anything
thought
about
so.
it not looking good. My critiques were around the CGI.
Yes.
No, I liked the CGI. I liked the retro look. Yes, I thought it was gimmicky, but I think it worked. I also noticed there was product placement, such as with 7 Up. And I just want to, address something, Sean, that you had said regarding Times Square. And I wonder if maybe they utilize Times Square to connect with that product placement. But I do really like what you said regarding just, why is it just New York? Can't we show the rest of the world? And thank you for making that point.
Yeah, well, I think it is a small scale film in a way. Like it's a very small story. There's not a lot of story here. It's like an anecdote, really. So in a way, yes, it is just this tiny little world. And that is probably a weakness in it as well, that they don't have more story to the film.
I do like the TV because it made you transition into a different world, and they didn't make it cheesy. They did, but they made it. You would transition, and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually want to see that world, and not just like, oh my gosh, it's a TV thing. You don't look at it like a lot of movies. If they do a TV thing, you're not looking. This one, you're like, I want to see what's on the other side of it, and it brings you back to the 60s. And I think one of my family members, they kept the old TV, so I don't know why, but I kind of got to see what they look like. So kind of like they did a very good job at showing what it would look like and transitioning it.
Yes, I agree. And I think we should talk about the heart of the story here. Is this more than just a superhero movie? Is it a family dramedy? What do people think? Does it function solely as a family dramedy?
I hate the way you say that. You goddamn Canadian. Dramedy.
I don't speak Canadian. Let me get someone over here. Mike, we have a Canadian.
No problem. I got it, Heather. Hey, buddy. What seems to be the problem, gay?
What would you prefer? Dramedy?
Yes, I prefer dramedy.
Dramedy? Okay.
Yeah.
I think dramedy is a good word. So I did want to share this. I remember an acting teacher once telling me that if a character, we'll say main character, is saved by love, then it's a melodrama. So I would say that the ending was melodramatic, given that definition. I did not think this movie was character driven. I felt like it was more plot and action driven.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they've tried to add in some other things, some touches like the whole family thing, but it is very superficial. They don't really go very deep into it. I think it's better that it's there than if it wasn't there. But I think if you tried to remove all of the superhero stuff and this was just them, this would not be a good movie. There's not enough there. They would need to develop those characters more. There would need to be more of a story. So I don't think it really stands alone as a family dramedy.
You had me at not a good movie. You had me at not a good movie. I will say this though, I hate that ending, and it's been done so many times. Like I remember it was done in The Matrix as well, where a character dies, it's like, oh my God, the character's dead, and they just bring him back to life like 2 seconds later. It's like, why bother killing him in the first place then? It's overdone
Yeah.
and it's lazy and it sucks.
Because
Well,
it's a
don't kill-
melodrama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that Pedro, he did a very good job at getting the emotions of a father saying, like, take me instead of my son. I think his emotions for that was correct. I know all the emotions for the family wasn't correct, but he did a very good job at it. I don't think Sue did, but he did a very good job at selling the fact that he cared about the child. It made it tie into that. It was a dramedy. It was a melancholy. It was about a family because he had the correct raw emotions that he wanted to not have his son taken. Again, I don't know why it's not a female, but his son taken. He would have rather have been taken, and he didn't understand why. But the emotions were completely correct on, and that tied everything together. I think if it wasn't for him with the family, I don't think it would have felt like a family. I don't think the other ones, they were corny. The car seat was good. It was corny as it was. It is exact because there's so many stupid car seat things, and the fact they had to hit it to get it in. So many times I've taken care of kids, you've had to do that. So the fact that they couldn't get it and they finally hit it was correct. That stuff was, but his emotions sold it because he was willing to do that. It was just raw emotions. The other one, Galactica, Silver Surfer, maybe, but his emotions were raw. You could actually tell that he cared, that he probably had something he could relate to, because that was literally, it caught my attention. I paused and I was like, that's where I felt it. He's like, well, why not me? Like, he was willing to do that, and he was fighting every step of the way for that.
Thematic depth. What this movie is really about. So is it just a spectacle? Is it just a good time? Is it just a popcorn movie? Or does it have a soul? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I do. I think it's popcorn, and I think if you go in expecting that, you won't be disappointed. However, I would say there were some cool things I enjoyed about the theme. When I was watching the movie, something that came up for me was the trolley car problem. Has anyone heard about the trolley car problem in philosophy, psychology?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief explanation. The trolley car problem is really about morality and ethics. And it goes something like this. There's a trolley car, and you have a number of choices. And those choices are, you can pull the lever and save a group of people, but then kill a person. Or you can do nothing and let the trolley car kill the group of people because the trolley car is speeding and you get to pull the lever. So you do nothing, you save the group, but divert the trolley car so that it kills one person. Or you can divert the trolley car and you kill yourself and you sacrifice yourself for other people to save other lives. So this is really a short explanation of the trolley car problem. And so when I was watching this film, I was like, oh, the trolley car problem. Because I do think they touched upon that as far as self-sacrificing and do we sacrifice the baby? So I liked that they utilized the trolley car problem. I've seen this done in other films, such as The Matrix, which Sean, you were mentioning before. So I think that was part of the theme about sacrifice, what that means to sacrifice, and sacrificing for the greater good, which is really part and an important part of superhero movies. I also saw the theme as, regarding family. And I actually wrote down this line that I noticed from the film, and it says, connecting with something bigger than yourself. And that was in connection to what is family. And so I really liked that definition of family. In life, you have your family of origin, the family that you biologically came from, and then you have family of choice. And you see that with the Thing. I think the Thing is not biologically related to the other characters, but he's part of the family. And I really liked the theme of a group of people getting together and helping to save the world. Each of them has their strengths, and they all get together to support each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. You took it in a much more intellectual way. I think it reminded me of an episode of Buck Rogers, that old TV show from the 70s, where there was an alien woman on the ship, and the people from her planet were demanding that she be turned over so she could be executed. And the people on Buck Rogers' ship were like, no, we're not going to turn this person over to be executed. But then the general population on the ship gets word of it and says, come on, just give her up. They're going to kill us if we don't give her up. And so, it reminded me of exactly that kind of story. And I have to say, like, if all he wants is this baby, and it's going to save billions of lives, I think this is something you got to think about, like, in all honesty. And he's not saying, give me the baby because I want to eat it. He's saying, I'm going to raise this child, and this child is going to inherit my position. This doesn't sound like that bad a deal, does it? I think it should at least be considered. And I don't know why they don't say, well, hey, how about we wait until the child is 18, and then the child can decide. And Galactus, or Galacticus as we like to call him, he's been around for eons. So what does an 18 more years mean to him? Nothing. Wait 18 years and let the child decide. And as someone in the movie says, that he would probably say, yeah, I'll do it, right? To save the planet, he would probably do it. So I don't really understand the whole conflict here. But anyway, anybody else have anything to say on
I want to
this?
say I love your contemporary references.
Yes, exactly. Buck Rogers.
A random episode of a TV show that's like decades old that no one's ever heard of, and that's your reference point.
Buck Rogers is an iconic figure.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look up Buck Rogers after that. Buck Rogers, right?
Buck Rogers, yes.
In a freak mishap, Ranger 3 and its pilot, Captain William Buck Rogers, are blown out of their trajectory into an orbit which freezes his life support systems and returns Buck Rogers to Earth 500 years later.
Just to be a little bit more contemporary for the audience, this was also done in the Dark Knight, where the Joker had the two fairies with the bombs, and if you pull the trigger and kill the other ones, I'll let you go, and if neither of them pull the trigger, they both live, or something like that, I think was the scenario. But similar to what both of you guys are mentioning. But I just didn't see a lot of depth to this movie. I don't think it's worth analyzing any more than we have.
No, I agree. So we should move on to the filmmaking and the MCU of it all. So first up is the pacing and the structure. Did it drag? Or did it
I thought it
flow?
was too short, actually.
Oh, yes?
So, I know we kind of disagree, Lux and I, in terms of how the Silver Surfer was handled, in that I like the potential. I just thought it needed more scenes, that whole storyline, to flesh out more. With her and Johnny and her backstory and her turn from bad to good. It's like, that's a lot. It's like she doesn't know anything about her past. So like, oh my God, like all these things that are now hitting her, all these emotions, and Johnny learns her language, and there's the love story, and she had a kid and she remembers the kid, and she's been killing all these people for Galactus, but now she has to make this tough decision to turn on Galactus. Just like 5 minutes of screen time. Or did all of that I just described amount to like 5 minutes? Aside from when she's like fighting, which is just like, it's just action. Just like her character just talking and interacting. It's probably like 5 minutes when you take out all the fighting scenes. So it's just like a lot to squeeze into a few minutes. I know Superman, I think was closer to like, was probably like 15 minutes or so longer. I think this could have probably used another 15 minutes or so to flesh out some of the characters. And maybe we didn't have to see him, quirky scenes with Johnny Storm eating cereal a couple of times and just like other stuff they could have cut out. And then also just maybe added a few more minutes. The Thing is, to me, is probably the most interesting and most loved character on the team. And he got completely sidelined. He had no sub story of his own. So I just thought the movie was a little too short. It could have added 15 minutes, and they could probably taken another 5 or 6 minutes of fluff out. Maybe add a little bit more action. Because for a superhero movie, there's not a lot of powers being used. Mr. Fantastic almost never uses his powers, and if you saw the trailer, you saw every time he did it. He's completely ineffective. He does nothing in the battle scenes. I just wish there was a little bit more action and a little bit more development on the storylines and characters a little bit more.
Yeah, they start a lot of things and they never finish them. Like The Thing does have the story of the teacher that he seems to like and she seems to like him, but that doesn't really go anywhere. They don't really take that anywhere. And even the story about how, the public is kind of turning on them, it's fixed in one speech, which I think was a terrible speech, by the way. And I don't believe it would ever work, even if it was the best speech ever written. I mean, just take a look at what goes on in the world. There's always people who are denying this and who are saying, yeah, there's no pandemic or there's no school shootings.
There's no Epstein list. I don't know what you're talking about. Can we please move on?
I don't believe that there wouldn't be. Yeah, there would be dissenters, and so I thought that scene was completely phony and it kind of knocked me out of the film a bit. But yeah, lots of stuff they don't really follow up on. And the thing that really struck me as strange is at times it almost felt like a trailer because things were moving so quickly. We were going through a lot of time. We just find out she's pregnant, as I think you said, Lux, and next thing you know, she's like really pregnant. And it's like we've missed like 9 months of activity here. So things are just moving at a breakneck pace in a way. And I would have liked them to slow down and actually have some real scenes in there.
Yes.
But at the same time, it does drag in moments too, where, there's just not that much going on. That's interesting. So
one thing they used to jump time as well, it annoyed the piss out of me. I don't know if I mentioned this when I was talking about Pedro Pascal and Reed Richards, but they do the mad scientist thing. I'm going to steal a page from Lux. Do you guys know the mad scientist thing? So they do this thing where it's like, in the old science fiction, movies and stuff and horror movies, to show that a guy was really smart, he'd wear a lab coat and he'd have a bunch of chemicals he'd be pouring in tubes. They basically did that with Pedro Pascal. How do we show how smart he is? Well, he's going to have this chalkboard and he's going to write these equations on. How many times is he writing equations on a chalkboard and then 5 minutes later we see this giant machine or these impenetrable suits and just like, we'll just have him draw on a chalkboard and we'll just cut to amazing thing that he accomplished with no staff and no anything, but we saw him draw on a chalkboard and that was enough,
Yeah, I didn't mind that. It's kind of corny and cute to see, so. I don't think everything needs to be analytical for people, and I think when people, because I've done streaming, it's like over analytical is not good too. It kind of puts people to sleep. It's fun to see the little punches. It's fun to see something different like that and throw it in there. You don't need, it's the same thing. You'll be put to sleep. Like, you need to throw things in. We don't need to see depth of everything. It makes something fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that the movie felt choppy at times and could have been more cohesive. I think it took too long for Susan Storm to be resurrected. At a certain point, I was like, okay, guys, come on.
We know she's not going to die, right?
We get it. Yeah. Have the baby, have some ray lights. And that was another thing that I felt was missed. Like, use that CGI to have like the baby have light hands or light shooting out of the baby's hands.
Not to cut you off, I want you to finish your thought, but what is it with CGI babies in these movies? Dude, come on. First Superman, now this. That CGI baby looked awful. It didn't look as bad as the one in Superman, but what are we doing with these movies? But go ahead, Lux. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, it's okay because I'm excited that you're passionate about the CGI baby not looking realistic. But I just wish that that scene had been quicker. And I really agree with the points regarding that there were things that they could have taken out and put more in. So, Sean, you were explaining what is in the comic books, like what characterizations are in the comic books. And as you're explaining that, I'm like, why couldn't they have used that in the film?
Yeah, it's a good question. This film, it almost feels a little sitcom-y in a way and a little television-y in a way, in that things happen and then they just cut to them in the apartment. You know, it's like Johnny Storm flies into space. He loses his powers in space because he needs oxygen for his flame power, but he doesn't need oxygen to breathe. It's like they put some thought into him not having his flames in space, but they didn't put thought into like, all right, now that he's a human in space, what's gonna happen? I don't think about it. We're just cut back to him in the apartment arguing with them. You know, there's like a lot of scenes like that. You know, it's like, all right, we need to invent something. They invent it, cut back to the apartment. They're showing it to you. You know, there's like a lot of just like cut back to them in the apartment. Anytime like something major happens, where it's like we can't follow through, we can't explain it. Let's just cut back to them talking, and that's stuff that could have been cut out. There's a lot of them just talking in the apartment about things instead of just showing us like things going on or more character development.
Well, they could have been wanting to make it look like a comic book and do it that way, which I enjoyed it looking like that way. It's a different interpretation. It makes it look like a comic book, and that's what they were kind of going. The 60s, what it was originally from, was a comic book. So it would look choppy. They could have done it smoother, but they're going for that feel, so that's why they did it choppy.
So what about the MCU? Where does this fit in with the MCU? Is this going to be the cure for the superhero fatigue we've all been hearing about?
Well, money-wise, it's making about the same amount as Superman, a little bit less. It's not a flop because they had 2 flops this year. If this one flopped, they would have been in serious trouble. I don't know if it's a course correction, like a minor hit. Saying, yay, we didn't lose money on this one. I don't know if that's calls for like a parade. It could have been worse because it could have been Thunderbolts. It could have been Captain America. So it's good from the sense that it's better than the other 2, at least financially. But I don't know if this is any signs that anything is turned around. It's kind of just treading water.
I think it kind of opens up for a family because they're bringing in the baby, and that dynamic, it opens up a different dynamic for I don't know if it's going to do it. They tried to open up that dynamic, a family, and they did it in a cheesy way. I don't think they accomplished it, but that's something that they were trying to do. I think it has potential to bring that aspect of family into it. With the child, yeah, they need to use real babies. They're improving the CGI, but I do think it does fall through with the family and change it. It's comic booky and it's family, which is different than anything else.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a cure for anything, this movie. I don't think it's good enough, really. It's not bad, but it's just not good enough to really be the cure for whatever the problem is, I don't think. But I guess we'll have to see.
Well, I think it's not a cure because the focus, like many superhero movies, is saving the world instead of character development and consistency. I think if they brought in more character development and consistency, it would be a better movie, and it would really start or maybe help this superhero fatigue that we're hearing a lot about. I remember when Thor came out, I really enjoyed the movie. There was a lot about the characters and the character interactions with each other. I'll never forget Thor bringing down his hammer when he's on Earth and saying, "I'll have another," I'll have another beer. And I thought that was a really great, comedic point, and it stood out for me. And I think we're missing those. And I'd like to see more films have consistency, more character development, and some of those standalone funny situations.
But that's what makes it's not a horror, sorry, wrong genre. That's what makes a superhero movie. It originally was comic books, and it's about saving the world. It's not about character development. It's about just enjoying and escaping.
Well, you see with The Dark Knight that's not the case, because it was a really darker form of Batman. And there is those psychological nuances in the stories. I'm not a comic book fan. I respect comics. But you do see sometimes, undercurrents of values, and sometimes they're portrayed in symbolism. And I do like that part. I like the entertainment as well, just going and sitting back and relaxing and not thinking about it too much. But I do think that there's a place for more of that psychological development. And I think that movies like The Dark Knight did that.
Okay, it sounds like we're not all on the same page. So I think now is the perfect time for all of us to say our final thoughts on the film.
And that's okay. I like that we're not on the same page. I think it brings a good layer to
Of
things.
course, of course. All right, so Angus, do you want to start off, or do you want me to go?
Sure. I'll start off.
Because we're not progressive here. Ladies are not first on this one.
No, they're not. No.
Wait, what was that? I missed that.
You'll have
I
to
said
ask.
we're not progressive on this podcast. Ladies are not first.
So yes,
That would actually be progressive, because all about progressiveness is about civil rights and equality. And so why should I go first? Because I'm a woman? No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
That's the
I don't
line
need
for
to go
you.
first because I'm a woman.
Yes. Okay. Well, basically, this is a movie that I thought it started off with some promise. I thought there was some interesting characters being developed, but then it kind of flatlined. It didn't really finish, and it just kind of became more about the spectacle and the action. And I think ultimately it's an okay film, but I just feel kind of underwhelmed by it. It just does not convince me that it's a great movie. It doesn't inspire me to see a sequel if they make one. I think that I'll have to hear really good things about it to want to go to the sequel. So for me, it's maybe worth checking out, but I wouldn't rush out to pay a lot of money to see it.
Okay. I am kind of in the same boat as you. I thought it was aggressively mediocre. I didn't think it was bad. I wouldn't say don't see it. It just depends on your passion for these characters, Marvel movies, superhero movies. I think it's kind of in the same boat as Thunderbolts and Superman. I may put Superman above it, but I don't think Superman is another class in it. They're all in the same tier, whatever order you put them in. I think that it had a lot of potential. I think Superman is very similar to this in a lot of ways, but Superman lost its potential because it didn't focus on the central character. It just had too many things going on.
Mhm.
This one had good central characters. They just didn't develop them enough. They didn't put in like a bunch of extra people that didn't belong there. Everyone was there, belonged there, and they had a core. The execution just didn't follow through well enough. And you can't sideline Ben Grimm, the most popular character on the team, with like almost no storyline, not enough drama, not enough action. Probably could have used a better, a longer running time to develop these things. But it's not bad. It's just there.
If we're doing a sum up, I'd say I really enjoyed the acting, the visuals, um, the comedic interactions, but I wish the story did more with character development and character backstories, like I have, addressed during this, talk. And I wish the plot was more consistent with the character choices. If there is a sequel, I would go to see it because I would want to see if they did more character development, if they patched up some of the mistakes. Like, I just want to see, if they were able to add on to what they did in this movie. And if I went to go see a sequel, I'd want to see more character development. I'd want to see a more cohesive and less messy story.
Okay, then it's the final critic.
I think I'd want to see it maybe less comic-y, more development with the characters and making the father less of an asshole and more caring and just neurotic. And change the emotion of the woman, which you can do, and as much as Lex doesn't agree, that's the feminine energy showing it differently so it doesn't look like postpartum. And I'd like to see more development, different angles than they did, like the silver. I don't know, I'm blinking. But that one, it was too soon and it was too confusing and there wasn't enough there. But I did enjoy the robot. I think that's what was probably the most enjoyable part. I liked how they brought that back to life. It isn't the best, but it's not bad, and there's a little too much non-flowy action. But other than that, it was okay.
Are we doing ratings? Like what rating we would give for the film?
I think we all said around average. We could give numbers. Does everyone want to give a number? I would say I think it's above average. 6.5.
I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
I was going to say 6 or 6.5, actually.
And the final critic's number.
7.
Yeah, I think we all look at it.
We're pretty close.
We all looked at it differently, but I think we all land around the same. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that is our assessment of the Fantastic Four First Steps. Kind of mid. Okay, has potential. I mean, I wouldn't see a sequel, but I will definitely see the Avengers movie and Avengers Assemble. See what Robert Downey Jr. does as Doctor Doom.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.